The last time cameraman Scott Kelso and I stood here was just a couple of days after the February earthquake. Since then, the tower's come down on the cathedral and it looks much sorrier than it did even then. And that's the story around much of the city. As you go around, buildings that maybe were damaged but looked okay on the outside, they've been brought down, and many of them have just been replaced by empty lots. And it's the same with rubble. Even that's gone and been replaced by empty lots. The entire face of the city has changed, and it's hard to work out where you are. So what's it like to live here and to work here in a city where everything is changing on a daily basis and everything you know doesn't look the way it did a few days ago? Well, a year ago we met Steve and Debbie Jaegar. Their house was red zoned and they had to move out, leave their friends and community and move to a new area. So they're in their new house now. We've come to find out what life is like a year on. Hello, how are you? Nice to see you.
Welcome.
Hello, hi Trouble. Hello. Good to see you.
Well, we've been in the house for about 5 months now. We feel very settled here, really happy. Just life is just a lot easier being in this house.
One of the things we talked about last time, you were worried about moving out of the community. You'd made some really good friends, particularly because of all that you'd been through together, and now you've left them. You've had to move out. So how did that work out?
It has been hard. I think that's probably when it started to sink in for me, was when the neighbours moved out, both of them. And yeah, we have got a couple of really good neighbours here that we've met, but it's definitely not the same. It doesn't feel the same, but you adapt, I guess, and start making new friendships. Yeah.
What about Matthew? Has he been coping with it? Well, because I guess, I mean, all his young life has been shaky.
He's been fine. Yep. He's pretty resilient. He bounces back if there's a big aftershock. He just goes, "Oh, that was an earthquake," and moves on. Yeah. He's been pretty good through it all, really. Yeah. I guess for me personally, part of it is I think he probably needs to understand where we've come from for a lot of it. So part of it is recording some of those memories, and we took lots of photos of Fleet Street and stuff like that. So if he ever asks, he can understand why we had to move out of that home. And yeah, I'm sure he must remember how upsetting it was for us and stuff like that. He saw a few tears and stuff. So yeah, I guess part of it is making sure he understands that, but that he's able to move on. And I think he doesn't really seem to notice it. I think he's young enough that while he knows it, he probably won't remember too much of the trauma of the initial earthquakes. Yeah.
Well, let's backtrack slightly and go back to a year or so back. It was a very difficult situation. How long were you in that?
17 months, so almost a year and a half. After February, we went almost 6 months without proper water, proper toilet. So yeah, I was still showering at work and washing dishes in the sink. No dishwasher.
Because you had running water in but not out.
That's right. Yeah, it wasn't draining. Yeah.
So we had to tip the water out. We had to we washed the dishes and then we'd empty the sink outside in the garden. So there was no running. Yeah, we couldn't just let it go. Yeah.
We hear lots of stories about how difficult it's been to sort out insurance and just the organisation of getting your house, getting a new house. How was that for you?
It was hard finding the right house, to be honest. That was the hardest part. We put in offers on 3 houses and came so close on a couple of them. And funnily enough, when we saw this one, we got in before the open home. We came through at, was it 10:30 or something, and by 11:15 we'd signed the contract. And we knew by 12 that we had the house, and it was just such a relief. It was just amazing feeling to know that we had a house, we had somewhere to go, and we'd sort of said, we don't have anywhere to go by the end of February, we're just going to move, we can't take it anymore. And we moved in the first weekend of March, so yeah, perfect timing. Yeah, and then we were quite lucky in that the insurance and all that other sort of process was relatively smooth. There was a couple of hiccups, but it was between the insurance company and EQC, and we had a great guy dealing with it, and it, considering how many people we were dealing with Sarah and the bank and AMI and EQC, it all went pretty smoothly considered. Yeah.
And we were totally blessed by that. We could totally see that there was definitely God moving in it, and the fact that just the way in which it was so smooth, and there were so many other sort of aspects that were coming into it Totally could see that was God's movement in it.
I'll never forget. We actually we were going away for our anniversary. When so we confirmed the house on the Friday before we went away, and I'll just never forget that whole weekend. We were just so happy. Just talking about the house and everything that it meant to us. And just within a week of moving in here, we noticed just a huge difference in the way we were treating each other and talking to each other. Definitely a change for the good. It's been a huge. You kind of don't realise how much stress you're under until you come out the other side of it, I think.
Alan Lee talking there with Christchurch couple Debbie and Steve Jaegar. And after the break, they take Alan back to see their old house, their family home. Well, it was until the earthquake struck. That's next.
This feels very different to where you are now. Does it feel weird to come back?
Very much so. It's kind of just... It's slightly a flashback, slightly a sort of and surreal, really. That, I mean, it's still like this. The look seems even more ghostly than it did before. Bent over fences, and then you also get, like, we're going to come up here where you get like empty sections, and you know, just they were neighbourhoods, they were friends, they were people that, you know, and it's all just nothing now. It's all gone. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you know, I know you put a bit of sort of emphasis on the whole thing of saying that, you know, a life is worth more than a house and all that sort of stuff, but still, a house becomes your home, and it's something that you sort of, it becomes part of who you are in a way. And so to come back here and see it all is quite, cool. It's bizarre, really is quite bizarre. Yep, everything's still, it's exactly the way, I mean, we've literally left it as we had it when we were here. There's been there's been no more extra repairs or anything to it. It's just, and I mean, it's only now just a time and waiting for it to be brought down, really. The carpet has been replaced because the liquefaction in the February one came through this door and flowed right through the house. And so over the course of a few days, we had to remove the carpet and then pick everything up, dry it, clean it, and everything like that. Some of the big things you'll see once now that we have removed the carpet is the good-sized cracks.
So when the liquefaction, I know from when we've seen it in other places, it's not sort of clean sand, is it? It's smelly and dirty. And a very sort of horrible smell, actually. It's really weird, and with us, we left it here for a few days because we were just dealing with so much other stuff in the February one, that when we came in, the house actually started to smell quite rotten and quite stinky. It was really quite gross. To the point that we actually took all our curtains down and washed them. So even though they weren't in the liquefaction, we just took them down because they just stunk. We couldn't get rid of the smell. We do have a lot of places where he can't really play outside a lot of the time. Hence the reason we now let him play with his bikes inside. I mean, he can't really wreck too much more anyways. How much more damage can you do?
Yes. But in the same sense, it's actually more of a safety thing for him as well.
It could almost be all right.
Well,
when you look at it from here.
When you look at it and there's no liquefaction around it and there's nothing else, and you look at it from this sort of angle, you could be like, that's still a pretty nice looking house. The bricks are still on it and stuff like that. But then to go back and, although we can't walk back inside, to go back inside and the doors don't work and the windows still don't close and things like that. It's the draft that's in it. I mean, you can see straight away there's no carpet still in it. I mean, so there would be, there's so much to it that's just not. I had a guy that, friend of ours that had driven around here the other day, and he was talking to him, and he said he likened it to an apocalyptic movie. He's like, I was expecting to see, he was just like, as if like a nuclear react or something, because he said it was just as if nature had just started to take back over, and the houses are still here, but there's so much of it, and the cracks and everything are just, it's phenomenal.
You got some reaction from people who saw your story on TV, so what sort of things happened?
People would come up to us and say, man, I didn't realise, how bad it was. And I guess it kind of helped that you knew you weren't just making... I guess it kind of clarified that things were actually tough. It wasn't just you're making a big fuss about it. You knew things were really tough when people said that to you. And yeah, for us it was just everyday life and we were just trying to cope, but it kind of, I guess, validated what we were feeling. Yeah, and yeah, we had people, you know, we didn't even know write to us and bless us, and that was just amazing, and that was a real encouragement actually during that time. Yeah.
So this is almost like a new start for you both. You sort of reset everything.
Yeah.
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 And
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we were a bit gutted because we were losing our first home and sort of, you know, all the hopes and dreams that go with that. You're right. But I guess we feel like we've moved upwards a little bit here, and we did do a little bit better out of the insurance settlement than some people, so we feel like we've been able to move upwards, and that's a blessing in itself. You know, there's no bitterness now towards the fact that we had to move out, because we're really happy here. So.
It's kind of funny though, even just like the small things, like the fact that the buses run out here. So Debbie can bus home, so it doesn't mean that I've got to cross town to pick her up to bring her back an hour's worth of travelling. We don't have to do it now, so I can make dinner. We can have him to bed. Yeah. Small things like that will make a huge difference in the overall.
Yeah.
Did you feel support from the rest of New Zealand? Because we were very conscious when we left and went back home, that everyone was very concerned about people here. Were you conscious that the rest of New Zealand was concerned for you?
It had its moments. Like, I know the initial news coverage was quite good, and a lot of initial support and people mobilising and donating stuff and all that sort of stuff. And then we'd get kind of random little blessings, like churches from up north dropped off the little caretaker goods and the chocolate and stuff like that. And then, so that always was a real blessing and a real encouragement, and it helped in the, you know, in the dark times. And then other times, you know, we'd be having these shakes and people, you might get a news report on a big shake and people would make comments, oh, it's still going on. Yes, it's still going on. It's something we live with every day. Yeah, so it was a bit of a mixed bag, really. Yeah.
So no more liquefaction?
No.
You actually have a garden there. It's great to see you happy and settled and in a house with running water. Thank you both very much indeed.